Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, my name is Dita Zahira. Today I want to tell you about the resume of book under titled The Secret Garden. But before that, I'm sorry if it's a little noisy because it's raining. Okay, let's continue. For the first chapter entitled There is No One Left. Okay, so there is a girl around 9 years old living in India. She's a sickly child whose parents have nothing to do with her. Her father, Mr. Lennox, is busy with his job in the English government. Her mother, Mrs. Lennox, is a great beauty who cared only to go to parties and amuse herself with gay people and had not one a little girl at all. From the moment she is born, Mary raised by an Indian servant, her ayah or Nini, who has been instructed by her mother to keep out of sight as much as possible. In order to not disturb Mary's mother, Ayah and the other servants gave her own way in everything. When Mary wakes up one day, an Indian servant she does not recognize is standing at her bedside. Mary demands her ayah. When the servants say ayah cannot come, Mary has a tantrum and kicks and beats her. Left alone, Mary wanders into the garden and plays by herself. Then she sees the mother talking with the young man and overhears the man say, "You ought to have gone to the hills 2 weeks ago." When the sons of feeling breaks out, the man informed her mother, "Someone has died." Mary realized a cholera epidemic has reached their compound, and the servants have been dying in their huts. She sensed her eye has just died too. 3 more servants died that day, and others ran away in terror. No one came to check on Mary. The next day, Mary hides in her nursery and is forgotten by everyone. She alternately cries and sleeps, while around her strange things happen of which she knew nothing. At one point, when she awakens, the house is perfectly still. She hears no sound, and still no one comes for her. Then 2 men, likely British Army officers, entered the bungalow. They discover Mary in the nursery. She angrily demands to know why nobody has come for her. Barney, one of the men, tells her there is nobody left to come. He said that her parents have died, and any servant who have not died have fled. Mary is orphaned, but she lacks sadness over her personal losses. For the second chapter, entitled Mistress Mary Quite Contrary, Mary stayed with the Carver family temporarily for several days. She disliked them immensely. 2 adults and 5 children who wear shabby clothes are always quarreling and snatching toys from each other in their untidy bungalow. Mary is so disagreeable none of the other children will play with her. One day, she is making a play garden and basil. One of the Crawford children offered her a suggestion for how to arrange it. She screamed at him and told him to go away. He nicknamed her Mistress Mary Quite Contrary, after the nursery rhyme, and the name is picked up by the other children. For the third chapter, entitled Across the Moor, Mary and Mrs. Medlock arrive at the Thwaite station, where a carriage is waiting to take them to Misselthwaite Manor. Curious, Mary stares out the window and views the tiny village and long stretches of the high road without saying a word. After a long time, they reach the moor. Mary thinks it's like the sea because it's dark, spread out in all directions, and she can hear the wind rush across it. She decides she does not like it. For the fourth chapter, entitled Martha, Mary awakened from her first night's sleep at Misselthwaite Manor to see Martha, a young housemaid, lighting a fire. After briefly watching her, she turned her eyes to her new surroundings. Looking out her window, she sees a long stretch of treeless land that looked like endless, dull, purplish sea. Curious, she asks Martha what is outside her window. Martha tells her it is the moor and asks, "Does they like it?" Mary says that she hates it, and Martha tells her she will come to like it someday. Puzzled by Martha's lack of deference, since the servants she knew in India did not talk to their masters as if they were equals, Mary tells Martha, "You are a strange servant." Martha, unconcerned, concurs and immediately clarifies their relationship. She is not Mary's servant. She is Mrs. Medlock's servant. She will wait on a bit, but only a bit because she won't need much waiting on. She will not dress Mary, as Mary's servant did in India, although she will help her with the buttons in the back. Instead, Mary will have to learn to do things for herself. Chapter 5, The Cry in the Corridor. That night after supper, Mary asked Martha why Mr. Craven hates the garden, despite Craven's order that there's lots of things in this place that's not to be talked over. Martha confided in Mary. The garden was his wife's. She had loved it, and both of them spent a lot of time in it. Mrs. Craven made a seat of an old tree branch, and one day the branch broke when she was sitting on it. She died the next day. A heartbroken Mr. Craven never went in it the garden again, and he forbids anyone to speak of it. Mary reflects on this story and feels sorry for her uncle because of it. Then she hears curious sounds like a child crying. Martha tells her it's the wind. Suddenly, the huge gust blows open the door of their rooms and blows out a light. The crying sounds become clearer, and Mary insists it is a child crying. Martha denies and claims it is either the wind or Betty Wood, a scholar maid with a toothache, who is crying, but Mary does not believe her. Chapter 6. There is someone crying. There was. Mary keeps getting lost on her way back to her own rooms. Eventually, she finds the right floor. Then she hears the same crying sound she heard the night before. She accidentally touches a tapestry on the wall, and it springs back as the door hidden behind it opens. Mary enters the door and walks down a corridor. She runs into Miss Medlock, who scolds her for being in the corridor and tells her to get back to her rooms. Mary asks about the crying, and Miss Medlock tells her there's no crying. Mary returned to her room, convinced someone was crying and determined to find out who is it. Chapter 7. The Key of the Garden. Mary walks away, thinking about the people and things she is beginning to like. The Count, Martha's mother, the Robin, the garden, and Martha. As she walks along the ivy covered wall abutting the garden where the tame Robin lived, the bird appears and starts chirping and twittering, immensely pleased that he remembered her. Mary gently draws closer to the Robin and makes chirping sounds. The Robin hops in the dirt as Mary watches. She noticed a hole where a dog had tried to dig up mold. Within the hole is a metallic object that turned out to be a key. She picked it up and wondered if it's the key to the locked garden. Okay, maybe this is all can I say. Sorry for all the shortcomings. Thank you for your attention. See you!